I hadn't introduced myself. My name is Kathleen Smith. I'm Yes, It's Kathleen on Twitter. And I'd like to welcome you here to Higher Ground. This has been my baby for the last 4 years. Understanding that career search is a challenge in our community and trying to find different ways to make it more comfortable. In the 17 years that I've been doing recruitment marketing, I've been on Twitter for about 10. And one of the first people I followed was this lovely lady, Lesley Carhart, Hacks for Pancakes. And it has been wonderful watching her mentor and coach people on Twitter and taking her personal time, going to conferences, and making sure that people understand that she's available for career search. So I was very honored when she accepted my invitation to be our kickoff speaker. So without further ado, Lesley, please kick us off.
Thank you, Kathleen. Appreciate it. All right, so I want to tell you guys a story. We're going to start with story time. So it was a dark and stormy night. A long time. No, okay, sorry. It was last April, Tuesday. It was a little foggy, and we're going to talk about two people today. We're going to talk about Alice and Bob. Who has met Alice and Bob before? I think a few of you have probably at some point in your INFOSEC careers met Alice and Bob. All right. So in our parable, I'm not going to need this. In our parable, Alice is somebody who's a little bit farther along in her career, and she has decided to make a lateral move from another technical field into INFOSEC. And Bob is a pretty young recent college graduate who's trying to get his first position in INFOSEC. And they're facing different challenges. Alice and Bob, it's almost easier if I don't use this microphone, I'm sorry. We're going to talk about those challenges that they're facing, and I want you to try to put yourselves in the shoes of one of them at different points during this talk. Recognize the challenges that they're facing as the challenges that you might be facing as you're trying to get a position in INFOSEC or trying to move up the career path. And feel free to use them as a shield, too, if you want to ask a question about what to do in a specific scenario in terms of hiring or job progression. You can definitely use either Alice or a Bob as an example to phrase your question to me. All right, so really quickly about me. My name is Lesley Carhart. I work for a company called Dragos, and I mostly do digital and forensics and incident response, so that's figuring out how bad people did bad stuff to good things. I've been doing this for 20 years this year. Oh my God. Yeah, for reals. I run a Twitter. It's called Hacks for Pancakes. If you don't follow it, good. I'm happy for you. I also run a blog, which you probably should follow, called Tuscany.net, where I talk about INFOSEC careers, education, finding your first job, and then also some tutorials on how to do various digital forensics and incident response stuff. And I also punch things semi-professionally. So let's... I am also a reservist, yes. Try to not bring that up too much on the interwebs, but yes, I'm also a reservist. I do things. This talk isn't about me, it's about Alice and Bob. So let's talk about Alice a little bit. So Alice is about 36 years old, and she's working as a NOC technician. So has anybody here worked in network operations, network engineering? Okay, a couple people, so pretty familiar background. She knows networking stuff really, really well. She obviously spends a lot of time looking at packets, looking at TCP/IP. But she hasn't spent a lot of time on systems administration, so she's a little weaker there. And she got involved in an INFOSEC case like a few months ago, and she said, wow, this is really my thing. She got involved in doing some network forensics, and she was like, this is super cool. I want to do this for a living. And so she's been trying to figure out how to do that, but Alice is also a parent. And she has kids in middle school who have hectic schedules. She is well into her career. She relies on the money to support her family. And making a lateral move is pretty hard for a lot of reasons. But she's made it to BSides Las Vegas. She's made it to Higher Ground. Good job, Alice. And she's ready to make that next move. So let's talk about Bob a little bit. So Bob is a lot younger. He is just out of college. He studied information security in college, and he's never really had a job yet. He's done some fast food and some work at the student union, and he loves computers. He grew up tinkering with them. He has a pretty solid understanding of like scripting and basic computer security stuff, Kali, etc. But he doesn't have any experience with like how corporate environments and corporate networks really work. He's also really, really shy. He's incredibly introverted, and it's giving him problems on his job hunt. So he's also made it to BSides Las Vegas, and he's also at Higher Ground, so good job, Bob. But before we get into Alice and Bob anymore, I want you to take a moment, and I've given you a paper and a pen here to help you write down ideas and think about your own problems and concerns and how you want to resolve them. The first thing I want you to think about is, what is the thing in the back of your mind that scares you the most about making the next move in your career? Whether that's into INFOSEC or getting promoted or moving to another company, what is that thing that alarms you the most and makes you the most hesitant about making that change? It could be that imposter syndrome, like I'm not good enough. It could be it's kind of hard right now to get an entry-level job in INFOSEC. It could be I don't have enough money to get the certificates that I think I need, or to go back to school. It could also be career uncertainty, like I have this really stable job right now in something else, and if I go into INFOSEC, I don't know what's going to happen. And finally, it could be, there's a lot of problems in the INFOSEC community with substance abuse, with trolling, et cetera, and those can really put people off. So any of those things. And keep in mind that your greatest personal fear or my greatest personal fear is not necessarily our greatest real weakness from the perspective of other people. But I still want you to keep in mind what you think your greatest weakness and your greatest fear are. So we're going to talk about Alice and Bob's greatest fears. And we're going to talk about some advice I would give them. And let's start with Alice. So Alice says, she comes up to me and she tells me, I've done a lot of important technical work in my career, but I don't think I convey its value really well on my resume. So that's something I hear a lot, and I see a lot, because I edit and I review a lot of resumes. So let's think for a moment about your resume. So think about the last position you've held as a professional. Whether that is, in an INFOSEC job or in some technical field or in a completely non-technical field. Think about that position that you've held most recently or you're in right now. And think about one thing that you do as part of your job. So this is, you guys have to participate, right? This is audience participation, all right? Don't make me come down there. Anyway, so think about one thing that you do and write it down on the piece of paper in front of you. Just one task, one work bullet. We all do things. It can be very simple. It can be I administer Exchange. I respond to security alerts. One thing. I see some people writing. Good job. All right. Now I want to tell you how I fix people's work experience bullets to make them convey impact. I have a rule of thumb for work experience bullets on a resume, and they should contain 3 things. And those 3 things are an action, an impact, and quantification. Let me explain what each of those things are. The action is the thing you just wrote down. I do the thing. That's the same as a job posting for your position. It says you've got to administer Exchange, you've got to respond to security alerts, you've got to monitor antivirus, whatever. Those are actions that you have to take as part of your position to maintain your position. But we have to add a couple more things, and this is where I see people really have problems on their resumes. The second thing is impact. Now, on your resume, it's really hard for a lot of us to brag. We're mostly pretty humble and introverted people. So, why does this thing, the thing that you just described that you do as part of your position, matter to your organization? What impact does it have on your bottom line, on your team, on the people who work with you, on your ability to work faster, work better? Think about that and add that to your piece of paper under that bullet. Why is that thing important? Imagine I'm standing in front of you, we're talking one-to-one, and I say, why is it important that you upgraded Exchange to the latest version? Why does it matter? So write that down next. That's your impact. And finally, we have quantification. And quantification is adding like a scope to that impact so that people know how much impact you had. So that could be money, that could be the number of people you serve, the number of people you work with, the number of people you trained, the dollars you prevented being lost during an attack, or the number of nodes that you service on your network. Lots of different things, but every work experience bullet should have a bullet to give me context to see what size organization you were working in and what kind of pace, tempo your operations were working in, and also to give us an idea of the value of the work that you are doing and that you understood that it has value. So hopefully you have 3 things written down on your piece of paper right now. Finally, I want to remind you to sell, don't tell. Your work experience bullets and your resume should never read like a job posting for your current position. Anybody who comes into your position is going to be doing a set of roles. They're going to be administering things, responding to alerts, etc. Why did you do it better? Your resume should be talking about your contribution, what you did and why it was valuable. A few more notes about resumes and the problems I see on them all the time as I'm reviewing them. First of all, watch your tense and your voice. I see a lot of people hop between present and past tense. Your current position should generally be present tense and your past positions should be past tense. I also see active versus passive voice changing. I should also understand between the cover letter and the resume what in the world you want to do. Do you want to make a transition to another role in INFOSEC? Do you want to go from red team to blue team, et cetera, et cetera? Or do you want to move upwards, or do you want to move laterally? I should get an understanding of that by reading your resume, whether that's an impact statement or it's your cover letter. Plan for automated review, so computers will read your resume before any human being does. That's how HR systems work at large organizations. Make sure that the proper keywords that match the job posting you're applying for are in your resume, it's in a standard format that isn't going to balk when it's converted to text, and that it's using simple markup and not a lot of fancy formatting. Don't bias the reviewers. I've seen people's photos, headshots, I've seen cute jokes, memes, weird and old email addresses like, something kitschy from when you were a teenager at AOL.com. And a lot of those things make assumptions about the reviewers. They assume that the reviewer is technical, that they are into pop culture, that they're into hacker culture, and that's not necessarily true, especially looking at the HR level. Keep in mind that your volunteerism, your talks, your project participation, and even military service are all very applicable, so make sure they're on your resume. We want to know that you're involved and you're interested. And always let a professional editor and a technical person read through your resume, and give you commentary. All right. So Alice tells me, the INFOSEC seems really into drinking and partying. I'm a fun person, but I'm not 21 anymore. Will I not be able to network? I know people have that unconscious fear out there because our scene is known for parties, and especially DEF CON, Black Hat, and heavy drinking. All right, so I'm not drinking right now. Good. Drinking water. All right. So here's what I want to tell you. It's okay to not drink when you're in INFOSEC. The important thing to me is that you're interested in learning, you're interested in keeping your knowledge up, you want to learn more, and you're passionate about security. That's what matters. It's okay to not smoke, it's okay to not party all night, it's okay to even not want to go to the ins parties that I love. That's fine. Yes, that's even in Vegas. There's lots of stuff to do here in Vegas for non-drinkers. Wonderful food, wonderful shows, cool spas, lots of cool things to see. So what I want you to do here, raise your hand here. I want a few of you to make a pledge. And that pledge is you'll, at some point during this week, Hacker Summer Camp, you're willing to hang out with a non-drinker. You're willing to hang out with a non-drinker. Okay, look around, see the people who are raising their hands. And you promise me personally, Hacks for Pancakes, you're not going to pressure them to drink, and you're not going to take them somewhere where all there is to do is drink. Cool. If you're one of those people who raised your hands, I've got some stickers up here. They are just like little colored stickers. They're nothing obtuse or offensive. You can stick one of them on your lanyard or on your badge. And anybody else here who needs some time away from the drinking scene and the party scene, go find one of those people who has a sticker on their lanyard. And pass that around. You can take some of the stickers with you. Kind of start a trend maybe over B-sides, you know, for people who don't want to drink and don't want to party and need some quiet space. All right, so we've got one that both Alice and Bob were concerned about. And here's both of their perspectives. I really want to do this, but I'm worried I'm just not good enough. There's so much stuff I don't know. The college kids seem to know everything. And then we have the college kid, who's Bob, saying, I'm pretty good with Kali and scripting, but there are some things I just don't understand about networking. I'm embarrassed to admit it or ask for help. I think most of us fall into one of those two categories. Either we're feeling like we're imposters, or that we're terrified to ask questions because we'll be shamed for it. So I'll tell you my rule about that. You will never, ever, 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 ever know everything about INFOSEC. And nobody else does either. And the more that you focus on one niche, whether it's red team or blue team, you know, differ, malware reversing, pen testing, the harder it's going to be to keep up with the minutia of the other ones. And the more you learn, the more you're going to find out that you don't know. It's just the progression of things. After 20 years, there's so much I know I don't know. It's progressive. And I'm constantly learning, and you should be constantly learning too and trying to advance your skills. But nonetheless, you're still going to have those moments where you're like, I don't know about this whole subject matter here, and it's in a different niche of INFOSEC, and I'm going to have to learn about it eventually, but I don't know. So keep trying to learn. And when you run into those people who refuse to help you for the sake of refusing, like, oh, you should go it alone, read the man page, whatever, they're not worth your time. There's plenty of people who will help you, and you should be willing to help others, because nobody will ever know everything about INFOSEC. Okay, so real quick, raise your hand if sometimes you feel like an imposter in any area of INFOSEC, any area. Now, there's a lot of hands up there. Good job. Well done. If you've got 2 years or more of INFOSEC and you feel like that, keep your hand up. If you've got 5 years or more of INFOSEC and sometimes you feel like you don't know everything, keep your hands up. 8 years? All right, there's still hands up there, guys. I mean, here's my hand. There's lots of things I don't know about INFOSEC. All right, oh my God, you guys, you're surrounded by people who have been doing this for years and years and years, and they still don't feel like they know everything, so that's okay. Keep asking questions, keep learning. You're here, and that's awesome. All right, let's talk about Bob for a sec. I get really nervous in interviews. I mess up, and people can't see the real me. So I'm sorry. I'm a little sorry. This Onion article just got posted like yesterday, and my former boss posted, and I was like, oh, that's me. Okay. The slide where we say hello. So here's what I want you to do. It's only going to take like a minute. I want you to turn to one person sitting around you, hopefully somebody you don't know. I want you to look them in the eyes. I know that's so hard. I'm looking you all in the eyes right now. Oh my God. Look them in the eyes. And then I want you to introduce yourself, say who you are. And I want you to just, so this is an easy one, tell them about a really good meal around here that or at home that you've eaten recently, okay? And then once you've told them about that meal, tell them one thing that makes you a great INFOSEC candidate, and then trade places. So start with the icebreaker. Tell them about food. Food is easy. Everybody likes food. Who doesn't like food? Thank God, okay. All right. So find a person and tell them. All right, 1 minute. Go, you guys. Okay. Okay, so I encourage you to continue those conversations after this talk as well. Yes, make friends. All right. So 8 things you might mess up in job interviews that I've seen repeatedly is not being up to date on current events in INFOSEC. So you go and you get your degree, and you're like, I got my degree, and then you don't read anything or learn anything. You're all doing better by being at a con right now, but that's a problem I see especially a lot from like recent graduates or people who graduated a couple of years ago. They didn't keep up with like, what are the cases in the news? What's new in cybersecurity law? You know, stuff like that. Failing to convey your passion for the role or the industry. I mean, you don't have to be doing a ton of stuff outside of your own, work hours. Just show that you like to listen to podcasts or read something, or there's some area that you're interested in learning more about. I run into a lot of people who just show no interest in doing anything. Being too formal, or more likely too informal, read the room. If you're having trouble with that, take a speech class, take an improv class. Get a handle on, am I being too casual with these people who I'm talking to right now, or am I being way too formal? Are you answering the question which you were asked, or are you evading? A lot of people, when they get nervous and they don't know the answer to something, they change the topic. It's not the appropriate thing to do in an interview. It's okay to say you don't know something or give your best guess, but don't try to change the topic. We have reasons for asking the questions we ask. Speaking at the wrong technical depth for the interviewer or the question. Definitely a problem. If you're talking to the HR people, they're going to have a different skill set than the technical person from engineering. Failing to convey why you want the specific job or why you're a great fit. Again, showing that passion, showing that you're interested, showing that you have an interest in that specific line of work. And also failing to read up on the organization or the job you're applying for. You should know some basic details about what the company does. It just shows that you care. And finally, are you hack-splaining? I invented that term last night. Do you like it? Yay. Yay. Hack-splaining is when you tell the interviewer what they're doing wrong and how they should rebuild the organization without having any prompting from them or having any background info on why they do things the way they do. And this is not gender specific at all. This is just don't do it. When you're in an interview, don't tell them, well, you should be on exchange. What are you doing? When they want your opinion, they will ask for it, and please provide them insight, but you don't have the information about the problems they faced. All right, so Bob, all the entry-level job postings I see are for 2 years of experience. How am I ever supposed to get my foot in the door? Okay. Apply anyway. Say it with me. Apply anyway. Okay. Because, so here's the bad news. Yes, entry-level INFOSEC is getting saturated. There's more degree programs. There's more people interested in the field. There's more people graduating at a entry level, low level, tier 1, tier 0, tier 2. And employers can get pickier, and their HR departments can tell them to get pickier, demand degrees, demand certifications. It depends a lot on the region you're in and the market. And red team, of course, is generally smaller and more competitive than blue team. Understand that you might have to move laterally or upwards, and you're going to have to network. In person is better. It's great that you're at a con today. Get your name out there for positive or valuable stuff, whether it's just blogging or podcasting or doing a project or doing CTFs. You should have a good resume and good interview skills, and you should maintain your current knowledge by reading and watching stuff. This is all doable. You can totally do this. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I need some from the hiring managers in here, people who hire. Raise your hand if your organization hires blue team people. Okay, there's a few people with your hands up. Now put your hands down. Raise your hand if you're considering a move to a blue team position. So those people who raised their hands earlier, I want you to take a business card out and hand them to one of the people with their hands up. Just walk over to one of the people with their hands up and hand them a business card. Okay. It's not that bad. It's not that bad, I promise. Just walk over and hand them a business card.
This guy right here has business cards.
Okay, all right. Cool. All right. Red team. Who is hiring for red team or purple team? Couple people. If you're hiring for red team, oh my God, there's a whole table back there at Bank of America. If you're hiring for red team or purple team, feel free to raise your hand if you're seeking a position in red team or purple team. Feel free to hand a business card to one of those folks. And keep an eye on that table back there at Bank of America too, because you'll want to talk to them after this. Okay, so we've talked about a bunch of things that worry Alice and Bob. I want you to do one more thing with your piece of paper here today. I want you to commit to one change coming out of Higher Ground today. It could be anything related to the things we've talked about: improving your interview skills, rewriting your resume, being less afraid to interact with the people around you, getting involved more in the community, or doing more in-person networking. And for the people who are here, who are established and are recruiting, helping another person succeed in their search. I want you to write that down on your piece of paper, that one commitment, and put it in your laptop bag or your purse or your wallet, so you're going to see it throughout this con. Okay? All right. So questions or comments? I think we've got a couple minutes. You're welcome to use Alice or Bob as your examples if you don't want to ask a personal question. You can ask about their scenarios. Remember, Bob is a 20-something-year-old recent grad, and Alice is 30-something making a lateral move from another position. I'll open it up. Ma'am.
So I'm a Bob.
A Bob. Okay.
So I'm interested in a couple of things in person because I've done CTFs. But I'm not sure what career path to take because it's kind of difficult to know what you want to do before you actually.
It is very hard. So I encourage you to take a role that gives you exposure to a lot of different things. Now, you're going to kind of need to decide whether you want to do red team or blue team, whether you want to do more offensive stuff or defense stuff. So that's going to depend on your hobby work, what you've been doing, what you've been reading about. For blue team, get a SOC job, get something that gives you exposure to a lot of different roles. And just do that for a year or two and get that exposure and find out what malware reversing is like. Find out what, incident response and digital forensics look like, and start deciding what's more of your thing. But there are entry levels like that, entry-level positions like that give you exposure to a lot of different things that are going to help you fine-tune what is your mindset best for. Anything else?
We have time for one more question.
Okay. No. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. Sir. Okay. It's tough, especially, and that was kind of Alice's problem too, was I have a family and I can't move downward. I need to make a lateral move where I'm making the same money. Network, and also start trying to build up those skills through extracurricular stuff if you can. At the cons, do CTFs, do a talk. Kind of build up that portfolio that you can bring to somebody at a more lateral level. Okay, so I think that's all we have time for. Thank you for your attention today. I hope you guys have some ideas about where you're going to go for the next few hours of Higher Ground. Feel free to come up here and take a sticker, or you can pass them around. Try to get those out there. If you're willing to hang out with somebody who doesn't want to drink, they can find you, look at your badge, and see that colored sticker on there, and they'll know that you're somebody they can hang out with and not get pushed to do shots, stuff like that. Cool beans. Okay, thank you, everybody.